work is full of convincing conclusions and clever analyses, for instance concerning Hitler's skill as an orator and his uncanny dual nature. This first Hitler biography was enthusiastically received by German exiles. Constantly with Konrad Hagen's scorching Hitler biography, noted Tia Sternheim, the ex-wife of playwright Karl Sternheim, in late October 1935. A spotlight upon Germany. Suddenly you thank God for the existence of this sort of human conscience. Might not this book be the first decisive breach in the infernal crime that is taking place right now in Germany? The art patron and diplomat Harry Kessler, who like Sternheim lived in French exile, was also full of praise. A clever and convincing book, he wrote in his journal. A failed man and a failed people have joined forces. How accurate. The Gestapo and the security service tried to track down Hagen, who had moved to France, but when the Wehrmacht invaded that country in 1940, he was able to flee via Lisbon to the United States. Alan Bullock's thrilling 1952 debut, Hitler, A Study in Tyranny, has been the starting point for all subsequent academic study of the Hitler phenomenon. The British historian had advance access to confiscated German documents which had been used as evidence at the Nuremberg trials and which were about to be made public. Bullock depicted the German dictator as a completely unprincipled opportunist driven solely by lust for power at its most raw and pure. In his conclusion, Bullock cited the former Gdansk Senate President Hermann Rauschning, a German exile whose 1938 book, The Revolution of Nihilism, had greatly influenced views of Hitler at the time. In it, Rauschning asserted that National Socialism was the very essence of a movement, pure dynamism, a revolution with various slogans that it was always willing to change. One thing, according to Rauschning, that National Socialism was not, was a worldview and a doctrine. The thesis that Hitler was basically a power-hungry political opportunist came in for some heavy historical revision in the following decades. Above all, historian Eberhard Jäckel convincingly demonstrated in the late 1960s that Hitler did indeed maintain a consistent worldview, no matter how extreme and insane, and that this perspective guided his actions. Jäckel argued that the two most important elements of Hitler's worldview were the removal of the Jews and the conquest of living space in the East. Ever since the 1920s, Jäckel showed, Hitler held true to these two axiomatic fixed ideas with rigorous consistency. Both Fest and Kershaw adopted this insight, and the present audiobook will reaffirm it as well. Joachim Fest's Hitler biography, coming more than 20 years after Bullock's, is impressive for its style. Jäckel gushed that no one since Thomas Mann has written about Hitler in such good German prose, while historian Karl Dietrich Brocker praised the author's talent for dense and sweeping interpretation. Somewhat sheepishly, many academic historians asked why the journalist Fest, and not one of their own, had been able to achieve this. Fest not only came up with an unprecedented psychological portrait of Hitler's personality, he also located the Führer firmly in the context of his epic. Fest identified the most important phenomenon in Hitler's rise as the convergence of individual and general factors, the difficult-to-decipher correspondence between the man and the times and the man. To illustrate what he meant, Fest interspersed his chronological narrative with intermediary reflections that brought together individual biographical details and collective historical developments. The result was the paradoxical conclusion that Hitler, who despised revolution, was the German form of revolution, idiosyncratically combining both modern and reactionary elements. Fest's interpretation, based on already published sources rather than original archive research, has attracted criticism. Some scholars have rightly pointed out that Fest dramatically downplays the role of the conservative elites who ushered Hitler through the doors of power, and it is impossible to overlook the educated bourgeois contempt for the half-ignorant arriviste that Fest displays on several occasions, for instance in his snide critique of Hitler's poor writing in Mein